All right, welcome to our October teacher feature with Brock Wysong from Dublin Kaufman High School, and he's going to be showing the difference between Show Me and Explain Everything and kind of talking about that. Brock?
So, I'm going to go through some of the basic functions of kind of both applications. So Show Me, Explain Everything. I've kind of used both a little bit in the classroom. So Show Me, I started using one until my students were able to kind of all have Explain Everything once the apps were pushed to us. So I kind of got an experience with both and just kind of what some of the pros and cons are with each kind of app. I'll talk about kind of at the end some of the things that I noticed that you as a teacher using these for the first time, or even if you want to use them just individually. Some things you might run into that kind of might help. So starting with Show Me, in the App Store it shows up as Show Me Interactive Whiteboard when you open it. So once you open it for the first time, you'll kind of see this screen here. You can start creating new Show Me's, but you won't be able to upload them or download them and create links for them until you sign up for an account, which is pretty simple. If you have an account, obviously you can log in. You can sign up several different ways. You can just kind of put a new email, password, things like that, or use some of the other kind of app integration logins. Once you actually are logged in, once you're good to go, you can go to kind of create a new Show Me. So this is the basic screen. There's just a few basic functions that Show Me kind of has. There's not a whole lot to it, which kind of makes it simple for students to use. So the first thing, and then when you always open up a new Show Me, you're going to be able to write on the screen. So changing your colors up here at the top, and then you can actually change between several different palettes of colors. But if I wanted to switch palettes, I could click on that. But then I can just kind of start writing on the screen. Obviously, there's nothing really there.
How did you change between those colors?
So hitting the plus button on the right, I can, there's just all those colors that are available to you. And it's not like some apps where you have to purchase to be able to use the colors. You can just kind of go back and forth between colors you might want to use, and you can obviously mix and match, do whatever you want to do to be able to go back and forth between the colors. With the writing, there's only kind of one weight, so you kind of get what's there. So that writing that's on the screen, that's like the thickest or thinnest it will be, and anything that kind of goes along those kind of lines. I can then erase. So at the top left, kind of the second button in from the text button. So then I can erase. When I'm erasing, it's just kind of like any other eraser I would use. I kind of have to go and find every kind of bit and piece of the writing, so I just can't kind of swipe. It only erases where my stylus or my finger kind of touches. That's kind of the one thing you have to kind of erase everything. So if you have a lot of writing on the screen, there might be a lot to erase. Text, you can also add text. So if I tap anywhere to add, I can again change the text color. I can change the font size. If I start typing, and then I can hit done. One kind of part of this is just being careful too. If you want to move it at all after that, you can do it. It just kind of takes a little bit to kind of actually move it. You have to click back onto the text button and kind of click on that, and then it will allow you, which I'm still having trouble with. But again, it's kind of just really hard to move. You can move it. So it's just kind of hard to move the text the right way, because it took me a while to figure out that you could actually move it and not be where it needs to be. So then you can also add kind of several things to the whiteboard. So you can choose a photo, you can take a photo, pretty standard. So choosing a photo from your photo library, taking a photo with the camera, searching images on the web. Changing the background can be kind of useful depending on what subject area you're in. So if you're having students write different things, even students that may have special needs and need just that written, so a blank canvas might be hard for them to write on. Having the lines, things like that, you can switch between. So I just click on one, then it brings up lines, so I can kind of work on different things with writing. So it just looks a little neater maybe, but also grid paper for math and science, anything like that. Several different backgrounds, and then there's grids. There's actually music kind of clefs there that you can use to write musical notes. You can pull in documents from Dropbox and Google Drive, so if you have accounts linked up to that. So if you go to Dropbox, it has to be a PDF. Word docs, anything like that will not work once it actually loads here. So if I pull in this, say for example, quantitative graphs and motion maps, I believe is what this document is called. It does take a little while to kind of pull that depending on how big the file is, but I can kind of pick which one. I can't kind of pull all the pages in, so that kind of idea that it just treats it like a photo. It's nothing really. You can rotate it, obviously, but it just treats the image kind of as a photo. So kind of being able to scroll up, scroll down, do anything like that makes it kind of hard to use if you want to kind of do it with guided notes or anything like that or go over any problems. It just kind of has to stay where it is as an image. So I can move it around if I want to, not while I'm recording anything like that. So it looks something like this. And again, only doing one page at a time, so it's not going to create a new slide for each individual page. Obviously, your undo button here in the center, if I want to go back and erase everything again. And then you can also kind of clear drawings or just clear everything. So if you're like doing this, you're like, man, this is just all screwed up. I can just clear everything that's on the screen and then kind of going back to a white screen here. So we're good to go.
When you add a document that's like an image then, can you lock it in place?
So you can lock it in place. I'll just choose a photo. So if I go to moments here, let's say I want to use this photo here. So I can move it, make it smaller, make it bigger, everything like that. And then just where I want it, if I want it to stay in one place, I would just need to hit done. And then it's kind of locked where it is. So like when I start recording, I can't move it like while I'm recording. I just kind of have to keep it where it is. So you have to kind of plan out what you're going to do with everything. Okay. So kind of going to the recording piece, so if you wanted multiple pictures, you might have to have multiple slides, or if you wanted to, you are able to draw over the pictures and everything like that, but as far as being able to move them like in the process, you're not able to. They're kind of stuck where they are.
It looks like it locks it for you?
Yeah, it kind of locks it for you, so wherever you want it, like you just kind of leave it there, and then you hit done, and then you can obviously just leave it there wherever you want it.
And then so you can write and you can add stuff and whatnot, and it doesn't ever move.
Yeah, no, I can. So if I start writing, so like I can draw on the picture, right? But then obviously it's like drawing over the picture depending on what you're trying to draw. And then with recording, the key thing with Show Me before you start using it is that it's a continuous recording. So you can't kind of stop and edit anything. Like if you kind of mess up, you would have to redo kind of that whole recording. So you're trying to record something that's 2 minutes long. If you mess up at 1 minute and 30 seconds, you either have to go with that mistake or you're going to have to re-record everything that you're doing. So if I, for example, let me add another. So if I want to add another slide, right, you don't have to work just with one. The right arrow at the top, that'll create kind of a new slide. And let's go ahead and add a photo to this slide just for fun. I'll just add the same photo. It doesn't matter. And we'll look at that. So if I start recording, hitting the record button at the top, you can see your timer down at the bottom. As it changes, so it'll kind of keep track of how long your video is while you're doing it. But the key thing is that, so if I hit the pause button, I'm good where I am. But if I hit the play button, like hit the pause button again to keep recording, it's just going to keep recording over everything that I'm doing. So if I wanted to change slides, like again, it doesn't re-record over that slide, and just on this slide, it's kind of one continuous kind of voice recording for however long, and picking up everything that I'm doing on the screen as well as I'm doing it. So that's kind of the key thing, and I would say one downfall, if I was going to mention any like pros and cons now, is that it is a continuous recording. So if students are using this, if they kind of mess up, it could take them a while before they get everything down, especially if it's something they want to make sure that it's correct for the whole time. So then I can hit done when I'm done recording, and I can either save as complete or save as a draft. So you can just go ahead and save as a draft for now. But then I can go back to it. But again, that recording is still there until I want to either re-record over it or anything like that. So kind of once you start recording, you're kind of stuck where you are.
So Show Me is a better option if you're just doing like a quick video.
I would say, yeah. And when I used it with my students, we were going around, I had them take a picture. We had whiteboards from labs that we had completed. So students did a lab with constant velocity and buggies that were moving. They were measuring position and time. They created a graph and their data tables and everything, and put those on a big whiteboard, and the students went around, took pictures, and kind of compared it to their data, things they collected, and I just had them kind of record over it. So it was just easier, just kind of, it was quick, it was simple, and the students picked up on it pretty well, and then they were able to, it really didn't matter whether it was like, they're just kind of talking with their group and recording what they were talking about, so there was no necessary right or wrong, and if there was like some pauses, didn't have to be that precise as far as the video goes, so it was kind of simple that way. If I hit done, I can hit save as complete if I wanted to, and that's going to play it back for me, and then I can save it again. So as I continue to save, as I'm going, I can name this teacher feature, hit next. One thing is you do have to add a topic before it'll let you kind of move forward with that. So if I pick a topic, we'll just say science, but you have to add at least one, which just allows it to be searchable. So if someone would search science, if they're looking for specific show me's, you can do that. And then this is where you would need to log in. So if you're doing this with your students, creating accounts so they could send me their videos, because it'll allow you to create kind of a link for that. So I'm going to just set up a new account so you can kind of see that. Okay, so I sign up. You have to enter your birthday. So there's a couple steps like as far as signing up goes. If you want to follow any topics, you can. But then I can say done adding topics, and it will start to post my video. So I'll be able to post it. So once it's done posting, I have my video there. So once I've done that, I can then share this video. So hitting that gear button at the top right, I can then share it through Facebook, Twitter, or an email. So I just had my students email me theirs. But again, if you're trying to use this for the first time with a group of students, you just kind of need to plan for that time for them to be able to create accounts if they haven't already. So if you can kind of do that, have them do that the night before. Or if you're doing it in class, it was like 5 or 10 minutes. But
Brock, and I don't know if your students do that, can you make the videos or have them make their videos private and send to you as opposed to posting to the community?
You would just have to then obviously pay for the premium if you wanted to do that. But again, I didn't use any, like when the students posted them, I didn't use like anything, like they didn't put their names on it. They just kind of sent it to me.
Oh, that's as long as no names and grades and that kind of thing is.
Yeah, no, so they just kind of created their accounts and used them. And then with the share, obviously you only have kind of a couple options to be able to share it. Downloading it would also be an option depending on what they're doing. But also the key thing, which I found out, you only have with the free version. So if you look, as I was doing different things, like there's always like a little tag that says you can, pay $1.99 for the next version up. With the free version, you only can post so many videos, so much time. So once you reach that kind of limit, it won't allow you to kind of create any new show me's. So you won't be able to share them with anyone. So I had a few that were pretty old that didn't necessarily matter, but if you're trying to reuse these at all, especially if like you're working through problems or doing anything with the students, you would need to be able to kind of create more. So if you were to have to pay for it, it does become a paid app in that sense. If you really like show me and just want like what it's used for, you can do that. So in some of the more, other functions, but other than that, basic.
So say you run out of room on Show Me, and then you're just like, all right, I'm going to go back and I'm going to delete these first 5 because I want more room. Would that then free up space, or is Show Me like, nope, you're done, you've used it all?
Yes, it frees up space, but if any, so for example, if that was something I wanted students to be able to access, throughout the school year for any one reason or another, I wouldn't be able, if once I delete it, that link is no longer good. So the link to because you can create a link when you send it. So when I would email it, so if I say and share in an email, it just creates the URL. And then you can copy and paste that kind of anywhere you want to copy and paste it. And it takes students to the kind of Show Me website. But once that Show Me is deleted from your account, that link is no longer good. That's the main thing.
So only delete ones that you don't want them to look at again, or that you don't need.
Delete draft. So I can just click. So same thing, that gear button. I would just hit then remove. And I can say delete, unpost, and delete. So it's just gone completely. And then I can make, I believe, I can't remember the exact number because it happened a while ago. And I hadn't been using Show Me a whole lot since then. But I believe it's a number of posts that you can have. It's not necessarily time. It's a number of posts. You would have to kind of go back in and start deleting things so that you have free space.
Can you download them to your camera roll or anything like that so that you just have them still?
Yeah, you can download them and with that, so then you would be able to do something like that if you wanted to do that, yes.
Amy and Tony, have you ever used anything similar to Show Me?
I mean, I'm about ready to, my students are using Explain Everything right now. In fact, I'm giving them, they have a project right now where they have full autonomy in terms of what they use, and I have many students using Explain Everything, and essentially what they're doing is they are deconstructing a poem, and they're using Explain Everything to put the poem up and then essentially line by line what they want to present in their poetry project.
Okay. Amy?
I actually use Notability, which is a paid app, and we use that quite a bit in class. Really user-friendly, but same kind of features, maybe a little more bells and whistles than Show Me, and it works seamlessly with our LMS, so
fantastic.
It's pretty nice.
as you work with the teachers at your site, Show Me, and then I have in the past used EduCreations, which is very similar to Show Me. Both of those are free. So as you work with teachers and you kind of talk about, well, what can you do if your students are just bringing in their own personal iPads or their phones or something like that, or there's a cart, this app would be a really great suggestion for when you would like to have students record and annotate and create their own little lessons. And Brock, are you kind of in agreement having used this? Do you think that would be a good idea? Do you think teachers would kind of go for that?
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I think this would be something super simple as far as a teacher that's, new to kind of using an app that wants to be able to kind of just record things or have the students record things. And that's the thing, when I did this, the students jumped right, like it was pretty intuitive, like Show Me is, where everything is, how to do everything, and it was pretty smooth transition to using it, like for the first time. So I didn't have any real problems with that. We've mentioned Explain Everything. We can start kind of looking at that. So Explain Everything, don't necessarily need an account for. Like when you pay for the app, you have the app there for you. You can set up kind of all of your Google Drives, your Dropboxes, things to be able to import stuff as you're doing this. So now on my screen, obviously there's a lot of documents already. When you first open up, there won't be anything here on the screen. It'll just kind of be a blank gray screen. And if you hit the plus button up at the top left, you can see you can choose from 4 different templates. So with a white background, a black background, green, and then that last one's kind of a cream color once you actually start using it. So I'm going to choose the kind of basic. So once you click on that template, pulls up the screen, and you can see on the left side, that's kind of your toolbar with everything that you need to use to be able to write, draw, make shapes. And at the bottom, you can see down here, this is how I can add slides or look at all my slides that may be in my Explain Everything document. And then also adding, so it automatically adds it, kind of uses the same template that I had before. Now, if I want to delete any slides, the click and hold kind of function, if I click and hold, so you have a couple options. You can hit the X and delete a slide. You can copy a slide, so if you're working on something and you want that to be on your next slide, maybe it's a picture, maybe it's something else, you don't have to worry about, re-importing. You can double the slide, or then here you can change, so if I want maybe these to be green, I can switch that so there's a green background instead. It's very thorough as far as whether you want to delete anything or not, and asking you, making sure that you're really wanting to do that. Especially when you start recording, it'll ask you several times about different things. If you accidentally record over something, making sure that you don't do that. Left side toolbars. Again, if you had objects, the mouse pointer or the finger kind of pointer at the top would be your best friend, but we don't have anything there right now. So there's nothing to move around, do anything with that. But if I took the writing, so if I go to the pen, so I can start writing on this screen, and it's going to write in whatever color is selected down at the bottom. There's those 3 color choices that kind of come set with that template. But if I click and hold any of those colors, that kind of brings up a palette where I'm able to change the colors to kind of whatever I want. So I can make that red, more of a pink, a purple, the whole color wheel there. And then also sliding that main color from the white to black, the slider on the right, can make the colors a lot darker. So you really have an unlimited supply of colors that you could ever want. And then it just it shows up there. And you can change between, those colors. So if you want 3 different colors, but those are just ones come set on the template itself. But if I go back up and click and hold the pen, this is where you can change the width. Something, obviously, we talked about with Show Me, you can't really change. You get what you get. You can change the colors, but you can write, a lot bigger. The kind of weight of the colors is a lot different. So that's kind of the higher one there, and then again making it thicker if you'd want to for any reason, trying to show something a little differently. So that's kind of how the pen would work. Then just below that are our shapes. So when I go to add a shape, it should bring up there's about 4 different shapes, and then you can also add lines to them and a shadow if you want. The shape is going to become the color that you currently have selected. So right now we have blue selected. So if we add a circle, it would be a blue circle. Then I can obviously make it bigger, smaller. Now something interesting that when I take and kind of try to move anything, you can see kind of everything moves with it. So one kind of interesting thing with Explain Everything, once you start writing and having anything kind of on there, it all kind of becomes one big object as far as like moving stuff. So if I wanted to get rid of anything, if I hit the red X that shows up when I'm on the pointer, click somewhere on that object, now I can delete just the circle. So I could get rid of the circle. Now if I click on that writing we did, so all of my writing is then, if I would delete it, it would all go away. So that kind of becomes, all the writing becomes one object, which is something you just kind of be aware of. So as you're writing, like if you're in the writing tool, you can use the eraser to erase things. But once you kind of move in between different functions, everything becomes just kind of one object, which is it's a weird kind of thing to think about. Like I can erase that line, but some of the other writing I wouldn't be able to erase because it's now kind of an object instead of the writing itself. That's just kind of one little interesting thing that happens when students start trying to erase things. Like, why can't I erase this? And that's why they have to go and delete it, because it's now kind of an object. So then if I go to the text, so the A there, I click on that. Again, if I tap on the screen, a text box will come up and I can start typing, right? I can make the text box bigger, smaller, and again, it types in the color that you currently have selected. Now, in Explain Everything, you can change the font. So if I select all of the font, and then I click and hold on the A again, so where the text is, I have several different font types. So the list just kind of that you would have on any other device, and it's already some of them is already italicized and bolded for you. And then I can also change the size of the font, just kind of increasing, decreasing the size of the font if I wanted to, and then if I wanted to border it and group it, whatever I wanted to do with that. So if I click off, I can see that all kind of changing. So which is really nice, because if you want to use different fonts for anything, or the bells and whistles again with the students are always nice. They like to kind of play with everything and just make it look nice. So that gives them that opportunity. So once I hit the checkbox, like it'll be kind of done, and then again, trying to move it, it's all again kind of that one object where I would have to either go back to the text box and double click to be able to edit it, in which you have to be very careful kind of clicking and holding and where you're going to edit, because if not, it just kind of creates a new text box when you're doing that, to be able to edit the text, because it does kind of just making sure that you can edit it when you're doing that. We can then take where the plus button is, so I can add in everything under the sun. Like I can add a video that's already, or photo that's already on my device. I can upload a file. I can put a web browser. So if you're trying to teach students, like, you want to make a video about how to log on to a specific website or do, Schoology at the beginning of the year, you can put that web browser and it'll act like a web browser in your screen. So you can surf the web kind of and show the students what they need to do with each step, which is kind of cool. So you don't have to worry about trying to screen share with, QuickTime and capture everything that you need to capture. You can kind of just do it inside that document. So if I also taking the plus button, so going back to that, other things that I can add, new picture, new video, and existing sounds that I might have on my device. Cool thing about when you add a file, so if we add a file, we could go obviously down here at the bottom, so we have photos, we have iTunes, we have Dropbox, Evernote, Google Drive, WebDAV if your district uses that. Okay, so if I add a document, the key thing is, so if it's multiple pages, the really cool thing that Explain Everything will do is it will make it its own separate slide. So each page becomes a new slide in the Explain Everything file, which is really nice, and it actually acts as a file would. So it's not just like what's on your screen. You can also scroll up and down along the file to be able to, if you're doing guided notes and you want to be able to record over them. It's not like with Show Me where you would have just kind of a generic, just kind of, it's like a photo. You're able to kind of scroll, move around, do what you need to do to move the file to be able to write and show everything that you want to show on that file. But if you only want to show parts of it, you can just kind of keep what's there on the screen and being able to kind of write everything that you need to write, which is really cool. So treats it more like a file than it does an image within your kind of file there. So with that, you can kind of add, PDFs from anywhere you kind of would like to. One other really cool thing, which the students are always super pumped about when you start talking about Explain Everything, are the laser pointers. So just below the eraser there's the laser pointer button. So if you click and hold that, which we have the laser pointers, but if you click and hold, it gives you several options to use. So you have different size laser pointers, you have arrows, you have mouse clickers, and you also have lightsabers, which are always a student favorite when they start talking about Explain Everything, and they even make a lightsaber sound. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it, depends. But you can also kind of move those around, put them where you'd like, use those as a pointer. Allow at least like a couple minutes for the students to play with those or get super distracted when you're first talking about or using Explain Everything and doing any kind of tutorials with them. Then that final button there is the info button. So this kind of works as like your right-click option. So like if you were in like Microsoft Word or Pages or something like that, like when you right-click and being able to group things together, rotate, arrange them. So if I were to go to arrange, I could, send things back, forward, all those kind of things. Just some of those other functions, working with images or the writings that you have to talk about. So that kind of works as that button there, and especially if you want to try to edit anything, copy and paste, and move just certain items when you have them selected. Obviously, that's where you would be able to do that. So then we also have, your undo button there. There's also the redo button. And then also we can make the toolbar a little smaller by clicking on the button at the bottom. Or it collapses your toolbar, so you just have some of your, you have your pen, your pointer, your laser pointers, especially if you're going to kind of start presenting or talking about something so you don't get distracted by kind of everything, all the other buttons that are along there. Amy, do you have anything that you use, like other functions kind of important to talk about?
Well, I haven't used Explain Everything. I mean, I played around with it. But when you make the video and you file, does it create?
You can create it. You can do a lot of different things with it. So you can upload it to just about anywhere, and it makes it just kind of an MP4. But you can upload it to like your Google Drive, for example, and just use it and like create a link for it then that way too. So it just becomes an MP4 file, and then if you wanted to share it, obviously just sharing it whenever you upload it in.
I was just going to say, because isn't like education and stuff, like those files don't belong to you.
Oh yeah, these actually belong to you, and like you can export them and they're yours to use and put them where you kind of want to use them. So if you wanted to make something to maybe show in class, you could just do that, move it to your desktop to plug in and use if you wanted to do that. So it is kind of nice in that regard. Now that's some of the sort of the basic functions, being able to do those things. The key thing with recording is paying attention to kind of what you're recording, and why it differs in Show Me is that you can record each slide individually. So it links the audio just to that slide, and I can go back and forth and record kind of what I need to. So for example, if I hit the record button, obviously it starts to record down at the bottom. And then if I want to pause it or stop the recording, I can hit either the pause or the stop button. Now down at the bottom, so where the timer is, there's a little kind of arrow. So it looks like a gray box and a black arrow kind of right beside the timer button, where you can either have it override or you can have it mix the audio. So if I go down back beside the timer to the right, if I click on that, it should bring up a smaller kind of drop menu, right? And so if I start a new recording, depending on where I'm at, if I would say scroll back to maybe the 8-second mark, I like to have it on replace existing, just because if you have it mixed with existing, sometimes if you're not where you need to be, everything just starts overlapping, and then you're recording over something you didn't even realize you were recording over. And it just kind of gets really, so where if you do replace existing, so I'd say now I want to start recording over this, and I messed up and I'm like, let's just redo this. If I hit the record button, so then if I stop it and then go back to the timer and say I want to take it back to maybe the 12-second mark. Now if I start recording again, so if I want to record now, so I've moved back and I'm like, this is just junk. It's going to ask me if I want to record over it, so I kind of know what's going on, and it doesn't just start mixing everything if I don't want it mixed. That's just my personal preference. It's kind of whatever works for you. But this way I just kind of know what I'm recording over, what I'm not recording over, so that everything kind of flows. So it'll record from that 12-second mark. I can then stop the recording again, so whatever time we're at. Now if I go to the next slide, so if I go say to slide 2, I have no recording now. So if I click the time button there, I'm not going to see any recordings. Right? I'm starting from time 0 because what I recorded is only on slide 1. I use this a lot sometimes if I'm working through example problems with students, or just wanted them to have an extra resource to be able to hear another problem kind of worked out. it's nice to be able to like get to the end and be like, if I make a mistake there, it's not, I don't have to redo everything like I would with Show Me. If I make a mistake on the last slide, I only have to redo that last slide. It just saves a lot of time in that case. Now, there's some tricks to being able to record a video inside a video, but there are a lot of other kind of resources out there to be able to kind of look at that if you were trying to play a video kind of inside this so that it shows in your video, which is a really cool function, and you can import YouTube videos, MP4s, things like that to be able to play in there, which are kind of cool. So if I were to then say want to export this, left button on the bottom right is the share button or export. I can export it to, you know, my camera roll. It says photo, but it also, depending on what you have, it'll export it as a video or movie, sorry. So we can export the movie, whatever I may have recorded, done, so to my camera roll, to YouTube, if you have a YouTube channel or anything like that you use, or selecting more, it gives you a plethora kind of options to be able to like kind of export it to. Evernote, Google Drive, anything like that. And again, when you do the movie, it exports it as an MP4, and you're able to then kind of use that however you might see fit. And then also you can just save it locally on your Explain Everything file if you'd like to do that. So just kind of whatever, you know, your needs are as far as that goes. So saving, exporting, things like that. So those are the two functions of Show Me kind of and Explain Everything. Pros and cons, I've talked about a few of them as far as having kind of experience with both of these apps. Show Me, pretty simple to use as far as, you know, there's no extra bells and whistles. Students kind of can get on, minus the kind of creating the account part, get on there, record what they need to, and they're done. I didn't have to take a lot of time explaining it and how to use it. They were able to just do it pretty easily. Minor side thing is you have to create an account to be able to use it. I like Explain Everything because it lets you import documents and use them as documents, not just as an image. So I can kind of scroll through, do what I need to do if I'm doing guided notes or kind of anything like that. Using Explain Everything. Explain Everything has all the bells and whistles, so it has the laser pointers, it has the colors, it has all that kind of stuff, which sometimes can get distracting for students, so they're trying to make it look super awesome and cool, and then kind of it takes away from the actual what we're trying to do with the app, kind of in the actual assignment and what the purpose of this is. But it has a lot more capabilities with video and other functions like that. So you can create new videos from there, but students really need to know how to record and how the recordings work, how I record a video inside a video, so that when I play my Explain Everything, that video is actually playing. It's not just a still frame. I ran into a big problem with this with an activity that we did, and so that students were recording videos of things they were doing, but then when they're kind of talking over those, we were doing some things with forces. When they started talking over those videos and they didn't hit the play button on the video inside the Explain Everything, when they actually exported it, all it was a still frame. I could hear them talking, but there was just a still frame of the video because they hadn't actually played the video while they were recording. So now if you start a video kind of inside of Explain Everything, it will, and you record it, it'll record. But if I want to add a video from my camera roll, I need to make sure I've hit the play button as I'm recording that video inside of Explain Everything. And I spent probably a good, 20, 30 minutes in class just going over all of these functions with the students. So planning ahead, depending on what you're doing. Show Me, again, has limited storage, but it does allow it to easily be exported by the students and sent to me, though, if I were to use Show Me. I think there's obviously pros and cons to both. It just depends on what your kind of goal is. If it's kind of a one-time thing, you want something quick, be able to use it once or twice a school year, maybe, Show Me, it's free. But if it's something that you're going to use a lot, you want some of those video functions, those recording functions. Explain Everything is probably your way to go.
Okay, thanks, Brock. Amy, do you have any questions or any ideas?
I don't think, well, I did not know that you could type in a URL and record your screen, so I will be getting out of this Google chat and trying that because I need to make some videos to show my kids how to navigate through our LMS. So I'll be doing that.
That's fantastic.
And that's something new too, because when I had Explain Everything, like I had purchased it for myself, like when I first got my iPad like 2 years ago, so 2 years ago this December, and that wasn't something you were able to do. You were only able to do videos and photos and files. So which I thought was kind of cool because I played with it last night when I was like kind of messing around. I was like, oh wow, this is like super awesome because it just navigates just like a web page. They can actually see what you're doing.
Brock, I always have a hard time if I'm on.
Explain everything, right?
Yeah, and I'm on page 3. I'm currently recording.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna stop it, and
Yep.
I go back.
Yeah, so it just asks you, so you're still recording, so you can move back and forth. So like if, say, for example, when I'm working through a problem, like when I've used it to work through a problem, like if I want to advance the slide to the next, so maybe I have something pre-prepared on the next slide, it just kind of seamlessly continues to record. So that transition happens, but the recording still happens. So here, you're recording and you try to go back to a different slide.
Right.
It wants to know, like, do you want it to show that this is where you'd want to kind of mix it so that you can show that whole transition. So if you're trying to go back and forth, or do you just want it to record over that, or do you want it to just go to the end and record? So those are kind of the options you have. I try to pre-plan so I don't have to go back and forth between slides. So it takes a little more time, so especially depending on what I'm using it for, so that I don't have to worry about kind of doing that, because then if you hit the wrong button, then it's just like, then everything's all screwed up. So that's like the biggest thing, is just I try to get, so if I need something from the previous slide, like I'll work it out once or like ahead of time and then copy and paste some things over. So it's like, okay, this is what we had before now, because it is kind of like going back and forth a little less seamless as far as the recording goes. So I'll either copy and paste that slide from before over or whatever I need to do.
Okay.
So because I have personally come a long way from what I originally started doing and just what I'm able to do now. Like, it helps a lot, and just showing so the students really get a lot. I use it a lot for flipped lessons. So if we're doing things, it's pretty simple rather than trying to create a screencast or use something else. So just being able to do some of the recording stuff's really nice.
Yeah. Okay. Amy, I know you said you kind of use Notability a little bit more extensively, obviously, than Explain Everything. Are you sort of seeing how you can use one versus the other, as opposed to saying like Notability is what I use and it pretty much covers all of this?
No, I mean, I think they both. I mean, I think Notability is a student-friendly app that kids. It's very simple. You know, there's a couple fancy things you can do, but not too much. But like, even when you were talking about importing video and to Explain Everything and have the kids talk over the video, like there's huge applications with that in science, especially physical science, and you're studying motion and things like that, and you want kids to draw vectors or just all kinds of things where they could do that in a video, and Notability does not have that option. So I think it just really depends on what you want to use it for. Yeah, my students right now are very fearful of recording themselves. Mm-hmm. So we are taking baby steps with Notability. So we're just working in Notability right now, and then at some point we'll branch out and do some stuff and Explain Everything.
Sure. You got to do what you got to do. As long as you are kind of seeing some of the features that you could use, then teacher feature win.
Right.
Oh yes. Oh, don't worry. I'm gonna get off this and get on to Explain Everything and start messing around with it again. Because I think too, it is a really good tool for a teacher to use, especially if you want to record. If you're doing any kind of lesson or lecture or anything like that, and you want to save it and record it so you can have it. Yeah, I think Explain Everything is your best bet.
Fantastic.
And it's definitely nice, like, if you want, like, to be able to do, like, some recording but some written stuff. Like, for tomorrow, example, we're doing a broom ball. Like, the students are using the broom to do different, like, move a bowling ball in different ways. Well, I want them to, initially, I want to hear what they're thinking. Like, okay, here's what I want you to do. Like, how do you think you should do it? So that voice part. But then also being able to draw the force vectors and show everything, like, on an image, too. So, like, kind of integrating, like, the thought in it. Okay, what do I need to do to make this happen? And then how can I show it too? So you just have all that kind of integrated together, and Explain Everything. It's super simple to be able to do that, and like pull in the picture of the bowling ball and the broom, pull in the audio, and then be able to draw over all of it and be able to do it. It's kind of cool.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see that. Will you share some end results?
Yeah, no, for sure. And then just so they get comfortable doing that, and then because I want them to be able to show me some things later in the year. We're going to do kind of a big project, and I want to kind of give them some free reign as far as how they want to do it and show everything.
Well, thank you so much if you joined us live for our teacher feature, and if not, hopefully you will catch this recording and let us know what you're using in your classroom. Explain everything, show me what you love and what you maybe don't love. But again, thank you so much and have a fantastic evening.